Hey there, friend. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. Come on in here and sit down with me. Grab yourself something hot or cold to drink, whatever you might have. Sit here at the table with me and open your Bible up. And if you have your Bible with you, turn to Psalm 128 because that's where we're going to be today. Psalm 128, and we're going to look at verse 4. Now, we've talked about this Psalm 128. It's a part of the Ascent Psalms. It's a confirmation of faith. Because it's a blessing on all those who fear the Lord and walk in His ways. That was the first verse, sort of our topic sentence. It's going to drive the remainder of the verse and the remainder of the psalm. And in the remainder of the psalm, we're actually given answers to. The remainder of the psalm actually responds to that first verse, because in 2 and in 3, we have the first 4 of these blessings that are enumerated here for us, and the proofs of blessing that are enumerated for us. And then here in verse 4, we have what I would call the tag or the chorus. It's a repeat of verse 1. And so in repeating verse 1, this tag or chorus kind of gives us a break, and we get to think about these blessings. And is also a little bit of a mystery here as to why in this 4th verse he didn't use the opportunity to continue to enumerate blessings, to answer verse 1. So it's a repeat. And also you'll notice that in verse 4, the fear of the Lord is mentioned, but walking in His ways is not mentioned. So the fear of the Lord is highlighted. It's, as they say in our common parlance, it's doubled down on. So the fear of the Lord is the thing that brings blessing. Now, let me read to you a little commentary here from John Mason Neal. He says the purport of the first verse is repeated, that is verse 1, to impress the lesson that only those who fear the Lord can reasonably look for His blessing. So that's very good, isn't it? And then he goes on, he says, and then to show that there is much more to come, not yet named in the enumeration of good things, unspoken, because unspeakable blessings of God are invoked and promised. Well, that's wonderful. That's, so true. So there's an emphasis then on the fear of the Lord, and there's an emphasis on these unspoken things we don't know about, and he's going to give us 3 more in 5 and 6, but there's so much more that can be said. And I just kind of did a little perusal of the book of Proverbs just to get a sense of what other blessings might come because of the fear of the Lord. And I found 3 things, and I didn't look hard, okay? So you can look through the entirety of the book of Proverbs, in Ecclesiastes, in the Song of Songs, in the entirety of the Old and New Testament. You're going to find a mountain of blessings that come from the fear of the Lord. But he gives us a couple of things, and I just thought, well, maybe these are some of the unnamed blessings that we're looking for here in verse 4. Number 1 is promise. He promises us certain things. And the promise in Proverbs chapter 1 and in verse 7, he says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Look there in verse 7 in Proverbs chapter 1. And then in chapter 2, in verses 5 and 6, he gives us the same promise, that the knowledge is the beginning of, or the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. He says there in verse 5, you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. It's not just knowledge, but it's the knowledge of God. For the Lord gives wisdom. Out of His mouth comes knowledge and understanding. Again, knowledge and understanding. These are repeated. So the fear of the Lord, part of the promise is that you're going to have the knowledge of God. Second thing is a warning. Proverbs chapter 1, verses 28 and 30 through 31, wisdom herself speaks and says, because you did not fear the Lord, then there are some bad things that happened. And I'll let you look at those verses 28 through 31. And then instruction. The wise man, the one who fears the Lord, can be taught even more because he fears the Lord. And you look there in Proverbs chapter 3, verses 7 and 8, and the Father is speaking to the Son, and he encourages him to continue in this instruction because there's even more blessing to be found. So verse 4 is all about that blessing, Behold, for thus is the man blessed who fears the Lord. Friend, I hope that finds you today, and I hope it blesses you. Join me again tomorrow, and we're going to look at verses 5 and 6 here on Daily Dose Radio.